All right. So in probably the best Thursday night football game all year, the Seahawks beat the Cardinals 28-21 in a must-win division game for both sides. I think the Seahawks really showed off today. It was yesterday, my bad. But it was a really great game to say the least. I have to say, Mario. So I'm gonna let you take it from here before I give you my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, personally, like, like the Seahawks won. Honestly, I think the Cardinals might have had more like players pop out than the Seahawks. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to clutch play, and that was one of the points I made with Russell Wilson and everything like that. And one question was the defense, but like I said, if the defense could come up with some stops, then they could have done. Then Seahawks can walk away with a win, and that's exactly what they did. In the most important part of the game, the Seahawks defense stepped up. And I'll read off some stats. So for the Cardinals, I'll read off who did good. So Kyler Murray went 29 for 42 with two TDs. Larry Fitzgerald had 8 receptions, 62 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 5 receptions, 51 yards. Christian Kirk had 4 receptions, 50 yards. Chase Edmonds had 4 receptions, 36 yards, and a touchdown. And Dan Arnold also had a touchdown. And then for the defense on the Cardinals, Isaiah Simmons had 10 total tackles. He had 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss. So he was probably one of their best defensive players that game. Drake Kirkpatrick had 7 total tackles. Buda Baker had 1 tackle for loss. Angelo Blackson had 1 sack. Michael Dogbay had 1 sack. And for special teams, Andy Lee, he had a punt that was 54 yards long and he had 2 points inside the 20, so that really helped him too. On the other hand, though, what didn't help the Cardinals was Kenyon Drake. He had 11 rushes, 29 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 2.6 yards a carry. You had that touchdown, good job, but the running game, it just wasn't there. And Kenyon Drake has been a very productive running back for the Arizona Cardinals this
Absolutely.
year. And for this week, in a very important game, in a divisional rival game,
He
he
needed to
just
show
didn't
up.
show up. Absolutely. Now, going to the Seahawks, Russell Wilson was 23 for 28. He had 197 yards with 2 TDs, so that's some decent stats. He also had 42 yards rushing. So he did some good stuff there. Carlos Hyde had 14 rushes, 79 yards, and a touchdown. He averaged 5.6 yards a carry. Carlos Hyde actually did a lot because Chris Carson's gone, and they didn't have Fred Homer, who was another running back of theirs. So it was up to Carlos Hyde to actually pick up the slack, to pick up what Chris Carson and Fred Homer were leaving behind. And I think he did a great job doing that. Tyler Lockett had 9 receptions, 67 yards, and a touchdown. DK Metcalf had 3 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. As for defense, though, they didn't have as many players pop out. Like I said, they didn't have as many players pop out like the Cardinals did overall. But the players that did pop out were a very big difference. DJ Reed had 11 total tackles. Bobby Wagner had 9 total tackles with 1 tackle for loss. KJ Wright had 6 total tackles with 1 tackle for loss. And Carlos Dunlap had 2 sacks, which one of them was the game clinching
Game
sack. And
clinching,
then
yeah.
LJ Collier had a sack as well. But I think one thing that the Seahawks really did good was I think they did good just taking advantage of their opportunities. I could say I can give this to the offense, but both offenses did good, but they didn't do fantastic. Like nothing really popped out. So with that being said, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I got to give credit to the Seahawks defense. When it mattered the most, they came and they clutched up. You
That's
know,
something I told you yesterday. I told you that it's gonna come down to the defense, and it did. They held their own. Because Kyler Murray in the final minutes of the fourth quarter is known for making magic happen. And the Seahawks defense stepped up and said, you know what? No, we're not going to do this. We ain't going to let that magic happen. We're going to stop that man. And they stopped that man. And they did it successfully. And that's why I was saying it was coming down to the Seahawks defense. Like I said, the Seahawks defense has been playing like the Seahawks defense should be. And this game, they proved that they're still, that they still have life within them and they had to do their job. They had a job to do and did so successfully. And I gotta give credit for them. Like you said, not too eye popping on offense, but I think the defense, like I said yesterday, they had to show up and they showed up. They did their job and they did it right. It may have been sloppy at from time to time, but they still did their job correctly, and I give credit to that.
One thing that you said was you were leaning on the Cardinals because they had a better defense, but I said like it doesn't like honestly those two teams because their offenses are so good it just outweighs the defense, which is why I said it
Right.
like it's going to be an offensive game, which it was. But if the
When the
Seahawks
game did
somehow can have a couple of defensive stops, that'll help. That'll help
right,
tremendously.
yeah.
And that's all you really need. Like I mean, they're not Seahawks are a lot different than the Panthers. You know, both have very good offenses. But the differences between both those teams is Russell Wilson can go toe to toe for the whole game.
Yeah,
Teddy Bridgewater cannot.
right.
That's the thing, and I like Teddy Bridgewater, but like if the defense starts slacking, it's gonna get even
Gotta
tougher
pick
for
up the
that.
pace. Right, yeah.
For the Seahawks, what I looked at was Carlos Hyde was a very big factor in this game. You know, he did great because that's something that they needed was Carlos Hyde to step up in this game and ball
Right.
out. And as for Carlos Dunlap, he was that. Honestly, he was a big piece to this defense because before Carlos Dunlap, they were looking for a guy who can pressure the passer, and they didn't have that. And then when they got Carlos Dunlap, he was a very big difference right there because the Seahawks defense, the rushing defense isn't too bad. The passing defense is bad, and that's what surprised me because the passing defense has a lot of good guys on that team. You know, you have Quentin Dunbar, you have Jamal Adams, you have Shaq Griffin, which this game Shaq Griffin didn't play, he was out. But they have a lot of good guys, and then you got Bobby Wagner, who's probably one of the best coverage linebackers of all time. And then you got KJ Wright. So I was surprised that passing defense this year is that bad. But again, look, I mean, when it came down to the final seconds, the final minutes, it was up to Kyler Murray with the ball in his hand. And I said he had that one Hail Mary, but I just don't know, like, if that's in his blood. And it was not his fault he lost. It was not. Like that was not his fault, because at the last seconds, the offensive line just didn't hold up and he got sacked. There's really nothing you could do there. But I remember a drive before where it was third down, and I think it was third or fourth. I believe it was third. It was third or fourth down. I can't remember. And they hiked the ball, and Kyler Murray decides to run. It was 4th and 2, and he decides to run. But what happened was KJ Wright was in front of him, and instead of KJ Wright like biting on the bait, because when you bite, it gives that quarterback room to like kind of juke you and take off. What he did was
Right.
he stood in front of Kyler Murray. He forced Kyler Murray to make a quick move because he realized that KJ Wright was not going to blitz at him. He was going to stay in front of him, so it was up to him to either outrun him or it was up for Kyler Murray to make a move. And Kyler Murray made a move, and KJ Wright stayed in front of him, and Kyler Murray didn't really get anything out of it, which was a big crucial part of that game because he gave the Seahawks the ball back. And when I looked, they were up 28-21, and I was like, it's going to come down to Kyler, and he got sacked. But I got to give credit to the Seattle Seahawks defense. They clutched up when needed to the most, and they got the win for the Seattle Seahawks. So congrats to the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
And this is also a big win for them because it keeps them in their division. It keeps them in that division race. And so with that being, I think they're division leaders now.
Yeah,
so
they're division leaders now.
Right. So with that being said, now it's up to now the tides have shifted. Now it's up to the Cardinals to get that spot back. But as of right now, the NFC West, it could be anybody's game.
The Rams are playing good. The Cardinals playing good. The Seahawks playing good. 49ers kind of in a, we all know what's happening with the Seahawks.
Yeah,
The 49ers. They're still a very great division, very competitive division.
Absolutely.
But yeah, congratulations to the Seahawks. Good win. And keep playing like this, Russ. I love watching that, man, by the way.